Welcome to this week's show of Weighted Donuts. I'm Wayne Unger. I'm here with my co-host Craig Stier. How you doing, Craig?
I'm fine. This is a hurricane edition.
This is. And I'll be in Florida next week, so my timing is good. So, and tonight our guest is our returning guest. Now, I think this might be like 4 times, which is pretty good. We haven't scared you off yet. We have Dan Szymborski. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, guys. How's it going tonight?
Good. Dan is our Alec Baldwin.
I have the body type, so it works out.
We're glad to have you, as always.
I don't mean old Alec Baldwin. I mean current Alec Baldwin.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, okay. So, all right. Well, right before we started the show, Dan and I were talking about, we were talking about Baltimore, and it led to Diamond Mine Baseball, which is a computer baseball sim, and I'm in a league. And so you were saying, Dan, and we're going to make this quick because I know there's not a lot of Diamond Minders that listen to this podcast, just a few guys in my league. But so what you were saying is that, like someone like Daniel Murphy, you said that because he had a good playoff performance, it's like built into the game. Now, my question is this. Now, that might be, so for people that are simming the regular season, okay, so Murphy will have, he's kind of programmed to probably have a few extra homers in the playoffs. But what about someone who sets up a Diamond Mine league where it's not, it's just a league where people, are drafting from a free agent pool? And that guy's team.
Well, remember, I'm just talking the projections, from the baseline projection for each player.
Right.
So when I projected Daniel Murphy going into 2016, it was a little tiny bit better than it would have been otherwise, simply because playoff performance was part of his record, essentially, and to use it going forward. Because think of it this way, it would be weird to when you're on a projection, it's based on all the relevant information the data has. Except typically, if you don't use playoff data, you're actually eliminating the most important games of the season from a player's baseline ability. And that's just kind of weird. Daniel Murphy did hit those home runs. He did hit them in major league games. He hit those in major league games that counted, and he hit those in the most important major league games that counted against top competition. So how would that not be relevant to when we're predicting Daniel Murphy going forward, to include that in some way?
So,
it's not a huge amount of stats, but yeah.
Right. So basically, this was programmed into the projection disc, but not into Diamond Mines.
Yeah.
But not into Diamond Mines' regular season disc.
Yeah, it goes into the basic Zips projections that you see everywhere. Because, he had 7 home runs and 64 plate appearances in 2015 playoffs. And honestly, that's useful information. The seasonal stats, of course, will be the main component, obviously. But the way Zips does it is it adds in the stats for the 14 games, then it prorates them back down to the regular season number of plate appearances, so you don't get anybody that played 170 games or something. But it does help the predictive value of the projections just a little bit, but we're trying to get a little bit.
All right. No, I understand. I misunderstood it first. I thought that Diamond Mine would also use this when they do their regular season disc, not their Zips.
Oh no, they just do the season. They don't use Zips projections for that. That's just the season. So don't have to worry about Dan Murphy's playoff home runs affecting any 2015 replays.
Excellent. Okay. So let's.
I have a question right off the bat. I want to hear Dan's, and I want to hear your take on Showalter. Showalter's not opting to go the Britain route the other night. I have my own feeling on this. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's really, really here in New York. It's been, it's probably been beaten to, like a dead horse. But I really think it's a very, very interesting question in light of the fact that a guy like Terry Collins makes the move and gets burned. But I know you're an Oriole fan, and I know, Wayne, you love to discuss this issue. So go ahead, guys. I want to hear what you have to say about Showalter.
Well, I wouldn't give Terry Collins a hard time because I think he did get the best reliever into the game. But that's another subject.
Yeah.
I think that the problem with the Orioles is it's an old poker thing. You want to have you want your best hand when the most chips are in the pot, and you kind of want to manage that. That's like planning. The Orioles needed to have their best relief pitcher in when it was the most crucial, not waiting for a save situation, because the way it works out from a game theory standpoint is when you're in extra innings, the only inning that is absolutely crucial is the one you're in. Say you're in the 11th inning, there may be a 12th inning where it's tied, but there's an 11th inning that's tied, so on and so forth. So from a strategy standpoint, it makes sense to use your best reliever wherever possible in a tie game, and it was a crucial situation like this. It never should have happened that the Orioles went to the dugout without ever getting their best reliever in the game.
I totally agree.
I agree. And actually, it's funny. After, what's his name, Duseling got out Cabrera, and Buck went to the mound to get the right-hander, the first thing that went into my mind was, well, why are you not leaving Duseling in to, am I pronouncing his name correctly, Brian Duseling? Why are you not leaving him in to pitch to Devon Travis? I'm sorry, what's his name?
Dunsing.
Brian Dunsing. Okay. Why are you not leaving him in to pitch to Devon Travis if you're not going to Britain? Because Devon Travis hits right-handers a whole lot better than left-handers. That's number one. And then,
but the Britain overshadows it.
Oh, of course it does. But I'm saying, that was, so you see what I was thinking. Okay, you're trying to save him, to stretch it out. I wanted to probe him, and for Jimenez, and then but once it was first and third, okay, you gotta Travis has speed. Jimenez is a fly ball pitcher. You have to walk Encarnacion, and then you have to bring in Britton. You've got to get that force at home. You've got to get that out at home. So it was, like I say, it was extremely puzzling. And it's funny though, after last night though, the all chatter about Buck Showalter disappeared, and now everybody is carrying on about Collins saying, oh, he should have left Syndergaard in, but not real, but this is like the casual sports talk radio guy calling in, who doesn't see that, like, I think it was like in the first 4 innings, Syndergaard struck out like 10 guys, but like the last, I think, it might have even been the last 7 batters, but I know like a whole bunch of the, in the last couple innings, he got outs, but it was all on contact as opposed to strikeouts. So, the move was correct. It burnt him, but at least he made the right moves. But there plenty of people are calling for Terry Collins' head today as well. It was, it was crazy.
Yeah, I haven't been a fan of Collins, but obviously not for this thing. But the thing about Syndergaard is the Orioles, they weren't leaving in their starter to bring in Britton. They were already long into the relief. But the Mets have to actually think about, Syndergaard can only go so far. they've lost most of their starting pitching. They have to, if they're going to win the World Series, they would have to rely on him heavily. And at some point, you're going to have to trust the bullpen. I've had a lot of complaints about Terry Collins in the past, like his obsession starting Eric Young Jr. When he was on the team, and so on and so forth, to pretend Michael Conforto doesn't exist. All that stuff bothers me with Collins. But he did the right move, it just doesn't work out. I'm not a result guy. I think you have to go with the facts at the time, and sometimes it doesn't work out. If my stockbroker sells my house and buys lottery tickets and I win the lottery, it doesn't make him a smart investor. He's still a complete jerk that I'm going to fire and probably sue. But Collins did the right thing, and he got burned because you're going to get burned with the right move a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Syndergaard wasn't an option. Syndergaard was no longer. He was gassed. He had nothing left. He was out. I mean, he didn't even pitch the eighth inning. I mean, he was.
Yeah, they had Reed in.
Addison Reed, yes.
And this is
all you know what? You can't argue with the results. Addison Reed had a phenomenal year this year. He really did.
But this is all an interesting segue to the bigger story of last night, which is this Madison Bumgarner. Guys, he's a remarkable pitcher.
Oh, Bumgarner's terrific. I like that the Giants used him in this game instead of Johnny Cueto. I actually have a piece going up tomorrow. I talked about some of the Giants' choices. The Cubs have been a lot better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching this year. A lot of their lefty bats like Jason Hayward, Miguel Montero were disappointing. Kyle Schwarber didn't even make the start of the season. So by doing this, because Bumgarner and Cueto are fairly close in quality, but by using Bumgarner against the Mets, they use Cueto twice against the Cubs if it goes to 5 games. And I think that was a pretty useful advantage, especially because it puts Cueto, who's a ground ball pitcher, in Wrigley Field, which, if the wind blows out, can be a real pain in the butt for the pitcher. I think I like what the Giants did, and Bumgarner didn't disappoint. But I would have said that if he had allowed 7 runs, he was the right move.
And not to mention, the Mets were relying on, I believe they had at least 3 lefties in the lineup last night. They had Loney. Yeah. They had Loney, Granderson, and Jay Bruce. So,
and the Cubs, James Loney, a left-handed hitter. When was the last time Loney hit anything?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think they would have been happy with a little dribbler through the infield from him. So, and the Cubs, I think have their team OPS is like 100 points better against lefties than righties.
I don't think it's quite 100 offhand, but it is significant. It's like 50 or 60 points, but that is significant. I mean, it's not like they're terrible against right-handed pitchers, but you take every benefit you can get against a team like that. They won 103 games.
Absolutely. So tell me, do you do, like, with your zips, do you do something like an equivalent to win shares? Let me put it another way. So how have you handicapped, the postseason going forward now?
You mean the results or the actual process of how I do it?
The results.
Results, yeah. I even tweeted them earlier. Shoot, I gotta find them now. It's either that or open up my giant spreadsheets and Statistica again. I do a little Monte Carlo simulation where I make some assumptions about lineup and pitcher, and then I kind of crunch the projections through, get an idea. Where did it go? I have the Red Sox as 58% to win their series, the Rangers 53% to win their series, and Dodgers Nationals is a coin flip. Oh, and Cubs are 61-39 against.
Okay, and Do you go further than that, or you're just going one series at a time?
Well, I project overall, but game by game, I do one series at a time because it's a little hard to tell exactly what's going to happen because you don't know how rotations are going to be messed up, who's going to be in the second round. It's a little trickier to do that. I use simpler estimates for that, so I can't really do game by game the same way I can this series, where you can make educated guesses about who's going to pitch and when. Obviously, the Cubs I still have projected as the favorite. I had them at 22%, I believe, give or take 1 or 2 points if I'm forgetting. They are the favorite for a reason, but here's the thing that people forget. A team that has a 23% chance of winning the World Series is a 77% chance not to win the World Series.
Right. So you have them as your favorite. I assume you have Boston second.
Yeah, Boston second. I think it was 16%. I don't have the whole numbers in front of me. I've actually shut down that computer for the night, so I don't have all of it in front of me, but I can remember them.
Okay. I have in my own prediction, my unscientific, my eyeball prediction. I have a Toronto-Chicago World Series.
That could very well happen. Any team can, once the wild card teams win their wild card game, anything can happen.
If the Dodgers, if Kershaw, Hill, and who's the third guy? But if Kershaw and Hill were righties, I would say that they got the upset chance. They've got, you can't really look at teams that will match up with the Cubs on paper because the Cubs are just so strong everywhere. They're just so deep. So basically I look like, okay, who's got that good starting staff that can just shut down their bats, for a series. So I don't even know if the Dodgers can do it.
But when you have Kershaw pitching, anything can happen because I don't think they've invented a side of the plate that could stop Kershaw.
Yeah, and it's quite possible that Dave Roberts will know when to take Kershaw out as opposed to Don Mattingly, who didn't. So
yeah, I think Dave Roberts is a better manager than Kershaw is.
You mean Mattingly is?
Oh, than Mattingly is, yeah. Not Kershaw. He's obviously not managing.
Can I step back a second, guys? Do you guys recall what Major League Baseball's thinking is or was when they decided this round of the playoffs would be best 3 out of 5 as opposed to best 4 out of 7? And what are your thoughts on this? Because I think it's crazy that it's not a 4 out of 7.
Yeah, it probably should be. They were a little worried about the length of the season. This was before they added the 1 wild card game, and I think their feeling is adding 1 game wasn't as bad as adding 2. It's kind of weird because baseball has this paranoid desire not to let a game get into November. But as I actually looked it up a few years ago, and November 1st, the average temperature in the majority of the major league cities is warmer on November 1st than April 5th. So it's not like November is some sort of weird. Right. But they don't want it to go in November. They're pretty adamant about that.
I wonder if it's also they don't want the competition from football, hockey, basketball.
Well, yeah, I understand that all that kicks into gear in the next few weeks, and you want to minimize that. But it really, when you get right down to it, at least when I get right down to it, I think the 3 out of 5 makes absolutely no sense. It has no place.
A team like the Cubs is they're at most risk of being eliminated in a 5-game series, which is kind of weird to have essentially a playoff system set up so that the strongest team faces the greatest chance of elimination early. because, 3 out of 5 versus 4 out of 7, that's a different ballgame we're talking about. But I don't think that they'll expand the first round unless they go back to a 154-game season. Which, they hint at that once in a while, but Rob Manfred hints about a lot of things. So I don't know how much to really put into that. But the Cubs, they lost 3 out of 5 games plenty this year. I'm actually looking it up as we do this.
And baseball, Major League Baseball will never, this whole wild card, you think you're pretty sure it will always be a one game do or die. It'll never go to a two out of 3 or anything like that. I understand the calendar would argue against that ever happening, but they could conceivably schedule a few double headers during the season, and the season could end instead of ending on a Sunday, it could end on a Wednesday, and you could have a 2 out of 3. I don't want to bog this all down, but the one game playoff, I just don't. I think it's crappy.
I think
it's beneath baseball. What?
Yeah, I tell you, I don't think we're going to see doubleheaders because actually now the players have less days off than they've ever had, and there's been a lot of squawking about it, and there's also been a lot of theories how that relates to the increased injuries is how many consecutive days the players are playing. So I don't see them going to doubleheaders. I personally would like to see them eliminate the play-in game and just have one wild card and then make the first round series best 4 out of 7. You can get the revenue back with that extra game.
But remember, then you kind of also disincentivize winning the division as opposed to the wild card, which is kind of why they went to the wild card game, because playoff home field advantage isn't as big a deal in baseball as it is in, say, football. So they really wanted to be able to prioritize the value of winning the division as opposed to making it by the wild card.
Yeah, but the other thing is, you get, a lot, like last year, the Pirates and the Cardinals both have better records than the Mets.
True, but that's also an accident of imbalanced schedules with the wild card, which is just weird.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I don't think I'm alone in this. Based on, maybe it's just perception, but I think most baseball fans are not fans of the play-in game. I really don't.
I'd actually disagree. I think that baseball's gotten good feedback from that. They at least seem very happy about it. But anyway, I looked up the Cubs, and of all the little 5-game streaks they had this year, they lost 3 out of 5 in 33 of the 156 possible 5-game streaks. So just to show that they do, even a team like that loses 3 out of 5 quite often.
Interesting. So Dan, I was asking you earlier. You said you're not even you haven't even finished 2016, but I want to hit you with some names, and you can just tell me based on your own personal opinion for next year. Who do you think will have a better year next year? Wilson Contreras or Gary Sanchez?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably Sanchez offensively, because the way he's hit, that kind of thing isn't a fluke. There's kind of a weird kind of paradox in how people treat flukes. If a guy who hits 10 home runs hits 12 home runs, people say, oh, well, that's not a fluke, it's just a couple extra home runs. If a guy who hits 10 home runs hits 20 home runs, then they say it's more likely to be a fluke. But when in fact, the bigger the change, the more likely it's real. He hit 20 home runs in 220-some plate appearances, He hit another 10 in the minors in a difficult home run park. The fact is, Sanchez, even if he doesn't quite hit at this level, he's going to have a pretty damn good projection in 2017, just because it's hard to have 1,000 OPS over 230 plate appearances or whatever and not have a lot of that be real. So he's going to have a good projection, probably better than Contreras, I think.
Okay. I'm going to hit you with two other guys, although they're not playing the same likely not to play the same positions, although they did in the minor leagues. Dansby Swanson and Alex Bregman.
Bregman's going to have a good projection because he had a good one mid-season this year. I remember after his first few games, people were saying that the Yankees wouldn't even take Bregman for Andrew Miller. And of course, I called that kind of stupid, but they said, no, Bregman's a bust. And then of course he came back and he ended up slugging nearly 500 in his time in the majors. He'll have a really good projection. Dansby Swanson, I'm not sure if his 2017 projection will be amazing or anything, but I expect it to get amazing pretty quickly, just because of the levels he's hit at. He was damn good in the majors. I don't know if he's quite that good yet, because we are talking with a guy who hit worse than his major league production in Double-A, but I think he'll be a star fairly quickly. I'll give Bregman the short-term edge. Swanson, I think, has a higher ceiling than Bregman.
Okay. And Trevor Story. What do you think he's? He was on an unreal tab, but he still hit for a lot of power, even with all those strikeouts. What do you see for him going forward?
The power will be there. The batting average probably will come down a little more. He was always a good home run hitter. He hit 10 home runs for New Britain in 2015 in half a season. And New Britain, I forgot the name of that park, but that's always been a terrible place to hit. I remember when Jeff Bagwell was in New Britain, his home run numbers were not that exciting. I think, unless I'm just making all this up in my head, but he should hit with power. It'll always be accentuated by Coors Field, so people will always overrate him. Yeah, I actually just looked it up. Jeff Bagwell hit 4 home runs for New Britain in 1990, and then he hit 15 in the majors the next year for the Astros. So I did not remember that incorrectly. I remembered that actually. But
excellent. And I'm
a good point. Story's good. He's going to be overrated though, because players in Coors Field get overrated unless they're stars, and then for some reason they get underrated, which is this weird Coors Field thing where players like Larry Walker never get full credit for their Coors performance, but then the players that are the lesser players somehow get overrated, which is it's kind of weird how that works out.
Okay, I got one more for you. Not a young player. Just we spoke about him before Craig showed up. Andrew McCutchen. Do you think he's going to bounce back, or do you think he is starting to trend downward?
I think he's starting to trend downward. I don't think he's going to trend downward this quickly. One, they got to get him out of center field. I know he's a veteran, but he's probably the worst of their 3 defensive players now. He was bad in center field this year, and there's really no excuse for that. And the bat, I don't see it dropping off that much. I know in his MVP season he had like a 166 OPS plus. I can see it bouncing back to like 125, 130. But I think McCutchen's best days are behind him. He'll have some good seasons, but I don't think he's going to bounce back to MVP quality.
Okay. I'm going to stop with with projections for now.
Well, there'll be projections coming months. Get mad at or happy with or anything, but I always like to take a break after the season because there's all sorts of it's a lot of work over the course of the season, and there's always that time after the season before the free agency starts off that I can kind of unwind and relax, maybe cover BlizzCon year.
Unwind and relax. Tell us who are your Cy Young Award winners in both leagues.
This year is one of the toughest years, I think,
Absolutely.
for
I agree.
Cy Young.
I agree.
There's no one that's completely obvious that says you must give him this award. I've been doing weekly projections for ESPN of the awards. I have a little model I developed based on the statistics that the writers are using. But I'm even trying to think now, because if you ask me every day, like, who's your Cy Young pick, it might change. For a while it might have been Cole Hamels. For a while it might have been Justin Verlander. I think at this point I'd probably go with Corey Kluber, but I'm not really sure about that. It might be Porcello someday. You ask me. I'm not like clinging on to that answer. I'd probably pick. Yeah, sorry.
That's my point. I can't. I hate all things Red Sox, but it's hard to understand how many people, and what I've read, are just poo-pooing Porcello, and I don't get it. It's not as if his ERA was well over 5 or something. He's got to be in the conversation.
I think he actually does, in fact, win it, because writers still take win-loss record very seriously. His ERA is fine. I mean, it was 3.15, I want to say. I'm not sure.
Yeah, just a tad over 3.
Yeah, he had a great season, and really, it wouldn't be wrong if they chose him or Hamels or Chris Sale. Really, you could argue probably about half a dozen pitchers. It's pretty funny.
It's funny. A few days ago, I put something up in the Weighted Donuts group, and I'll give you my picks, and I'll just qualify. All of my picks, I say, are debatable, with the exception of Corey Seager.
I'll just say that the NL Rookie of the Year is the
only lock
vote, but I can't. That's the one I'm not allowed to talk about.
Okay. Anyway, AL MVP, I gave it to Betts. NL MVP, I gave it to Chris Bryant. AL Cy Young, I gave to Porcello. NL Cy Young, I gave to Lester. And the AL Rookie of the Year, I gave to Fulmer.
Yeah, and of
course,
Rookie
the NL,
I gave.
Yeah. I tell you, if Michael, I said this like a week or two before, I said, listen, he's got 2 starts left. If he craps out in both of his starts, and Sanchez maintains, doesn't have to keep exploding, maintains, I'll probably give the nod to Sanchez. But he had one really, really good start. He crapped out in his last start, but overall, I think I still got to give it to Fulmer. Even though Sanchez energized the Yankees and, really, surprise. I mean, helped the Yankees surprise a lot of people by staying in the wild card race as long as they did. Fulmer also picked up, the ball when they lost Zimmerman, and they really, and Anibal Sanchez was horrible. So that's why I gave it to Fulmer.
It would have been a very tough choice for me if I was a voter in the AL Rookie of the Year. Because I was saying Fulmer most of the year, but Sanchez, of course, comes up like the way he did, and simply on a peak level, since he wasn't there all season, I might be inclined to just give it to Sanchez by a hair. But I'm not really sure. It's one of those things that if I was voting in that ballot, I would kind of just scrutinize, because I'm a voter for the NL Rookie of the Year, and I really had a lot of trouble with names after the first one, who I won't say, but we all know who it is. I had really 4 guys for 2 slots, and that would have been harder if Steven Matz hadn't been injured, and Trevor Story hadn't been injured. That would have been even harder. But the awards this year were mostly pretty difficult.
Yeah,
I agree.
They really were.
You've got Mookie Betts as your AL MVP.
Well, I have Trout, but we can get in that fight.
But I agree. I would go Trout also.
Yeah, I can't. I hate. I don't want to. I know a lot of writers feel this way, but I don't want to fault Trout for being stuck on the same team as the rest of the Angels are. But Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. He was playing at the level of the best player in baseball. I can't not give him an award if I'm a voter. And I love Mookie Betts.
I understand. And you know what? The way I looked at it is, he's the best player in baseball. But and unfortunately he's on the team he's on, but I don't feel, but again, it's most, valuable player. I think it's like, valuable, it's never been defined. They say valuable, but it's really assumed.
Well, on the ballot, they do say value that is the sum of a player's offense and defense. They do define it right on the MVP ballot.
Right, but in other words, the value to a successful team and to a losing team, that's not defined. Like when Andre Dawson won it, he was clearly, statistically, heads and shoulders above everybody else. So that's why he got it for a last place Cubs team. I think it was a little different this year. So,
here's the problem you go into. Remember, we are making this decision essentially for history, not just for the award now. Someone's going to look at Mike Trout's Hall of Fame plaque, which it's pretty likely at this point. Just on peak value. But someone's going to look at his plaque, and there's going to be achievements missing from that plaque, essentially because Jared Weaver stunk in 2016. And it's something I can't allow like history to evaluate. I think we have to look beyond that, because if in an isolated vacuum where everybody makes the same salary, there's no long-term contract, the Red Sox would have taken Mike Trout over Mookie Betts this year in a heartbeat. If it was just if contracts and playing time and free agency weren't in the mix, they would do that. I don't think he's less valuable because Jared Weaver stinks. I hate to pick on Jared Weaver. A lot of the team stunk, but he was the pitcher who pitched the most innings and had an ERA over 5. So I hate to pick on Weaver. Yeah, he was terrible, but most of the team was pretty terrible. But yeah. I think we need to. It's an individual award, and I think history will judge us on that. I don't want to be the suckers in '95 who took Mo Vaughn and almost took Dante Bichette because of their teams, essentially. And I think it's more important to avoid that, because we're putting the judge on history, and there's a responsibility, I think.
Do you think there should be? There's been talk about this for years. Do you think there should be another award for the player with the most obscene stats besides the most valuable player?
I think that the MVP award should be for the best player. If they want some squirrely best player on the team that made the playoffs by the smallest margin, then make that a new award. That's how I feel.
Okay. So you have Trout, and who do you have in the National League for MVP?
Oh, Bryant, easily.
Okay, and who do you have? Who do you have for the Young in the National League?
I agree with that totally. Chris Bryant is the MVP. There's no.
Yeah, he had an amazing season. I remember when I projected him going into last season, Zips already projected him to be a star, and when they didn't call him up at the start of the season, everybody knew it was service time. That why it was the most obvious thing ever. I had people mailing me and saying, he might have to work on things. He might not be better than Mike Olt. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm supposed to be nice now after you said that. What the position you're putting me in?
Well, you know what? And it's funny, you talk about, when they didn't call him up. We knew it was service time, But
Everybody in the world knew.
But I got a kick out of Scott Boras. He said at the time, "Oh well, when he becomes a free agent, we're going to remember this. Like, you know what? When he becomes a free agent, it wouldn't matter whether you brought him up from the beginning of the season. Like, if you made him a free agent 1 year earlier, you're not giving the Cubs a hometown discount. Okay? You're still going where all the bucks are." So, I think
remember Boris's job isn't to necessarily be accurate or intellectually honest. His job's essentially to defend Chris Bryant's contractual rights. So if he felt that he could put pressure on the team so that they wouldn't get that extra year, I think that it's kind of his job to do that. He's not up there as an impartial analyst, so I can forgive Boras that nonsense. Because Bryant, like most players, I like when Zach Greinke said it a few years ago. Well, not a few years ago. It wasn't a few years ago. Yeah, it was when he signed with the Dodgers. I was thinking it was with Arizona, but that isn't the story. And someone asked him, like where he was going to go if winning's important. He said, "Oh, no, I'm going to sign with who gives me the most money because that's how it works." Because I like the honesty.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get that much these days. So.
And NL Cy Young, I think you forgot that one. I probably would have gone with Max Scherzer, but again, tough vote.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. Earlier in the year, well, not even that. I'd say 2 months ago, I thought it was like almost a dead heat between Rizzo and Daniel Murphy.
Oh yeah, but Bryant pulled away. Murphy, of course, had a ridiculous season. Even if Zips took his playoff performance in 2015, it didn't see anything like this in 2016. I don't think anybody saw it coming, or they were offering
not even Daniel. Yes. Yeah. Not even Daniel Murphy. Everybody, I hear people talk about that, particularly here in New York. I hear it all the time. Oh, the Mets should have signed Murphy because I said, listen,
yeah,
Daniel
nobody
Murphy
saw this
didn't know.
Yeah.
Because if Daniel Murphy saw this coming, he would have taken a qualifying offer and then signed a $100 million contract.
Yeah, no one saw it coming. If the person doesn't see it coming, you can't fault no one else for seeing it coming. Although on the Cy Young, I wouldn't have done it, but I would have been slightly tempted to still vote Kershaw first, because even though he missed time, he's still the best pitcher in the National League. But obviously I wouldn't have done that in the end. But I would have at least considered trolling the voters a little.
I tell you, I honestly, I think he ended up with 150 innings.
Right around there. And there were damn good innings too. I mean, ERA under 2. Had less than a walk per 9 innings, which is like the record for him.
Oh, I mean, his whip was like .72 or something like that. I tell you, I think if he had 2 more starts, so let's say he would have had 165 innings with those same numbers.
Yeah, then
I might have picked him. I might have picked him.
It becomes a challenge there. I mean, when you're talking 160, 170 innings instead of 150, all of a sudden it gets really interesting because obviously he's going to have fewer innings, but you wonder how much better is he. I mean, people are talking Zach Britton in the AL, and he only had 67 innings. They're, of course, high leverage innings, but 67 is not a lot of innings. I think if he had come back a little earlier, he could have made it really interesting in the race. He won't win, though. Not even close.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know about
too bad.
I'm pulling for him to do well. I want him to have a Bumgarner like postseason, because I'm tired of people poo-pooing his postseason number. Poo-pooing his career
absolutely.
because he hasn't produced, and it really he's a remarkable pitcher. We're seeing something. Wayne and I talked about this a few weeks ago. He's remarkable.
Unbelievable. He's Koufax. I mean, essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
Willie Mays hit 247 in the playoffs, but no one says Willie Mays was a choker. It's stupid because these are the best players in baseball going against the other best players in baseball. Guys are going to have bad runs, poor runs. It doesn't mean that they're have any less character. That kind of thing just bugs me.
Yeah, I'm with
You know what? I don't know, and maybe it's perception, but it seems as though that Kershaw's worst moments were always after the sixth inning, from the seventh inning on. And again, I saw this against the Cardinals. I saw it against the Mets. Mattingly did not know when to pull him.
Mattingly had issues with that.
Yes, and so that's part of it too. So we would like to see that. And oh God, I just had another question and I went blank. Craig, ask a question while my brain fart passes.
That's a senior moment.
Yes. Well, and what about you? You have no question, or you're having a senior moment yourself?
Oh, I thought, you see, you've had this in the past, but you regain your composure so quickly, I figured you'd bounce right back.
No, I'm not. I didn't bounce yet. I didn't.
So Zips did.
What was the general subject?
Zips did real well this year, Dan.
Yeah, beat Vegas. That's 4 years and 5 that we've beaten Vegas, or I've beaten Vegas. There's no real we involved, but I'm always happy about that.
I just think that's just terrific. We're thrilled that you're a guest on our show, and I just think that's great.
Yeah, I always want to win. I mean, I always say, oh, well, there's a lot of variation, but you still like to win and have the projections work out the best. So, and I'm always glad when a third party does it, because I have a conflict of interest when I say, oh, look what I did. So it's always happy. I'm glad that what's-his-face from USA Today did it. And I like to beat my competitors.
It's a great
and speaking of Vegas, so I'm just curious, do you actually put your money where your mouth is?
Oh, I always bet. I'm not a compulsive bettor, because the key to betting well is you pick your spots. Too many people bet too many things. I bet the best opportunities. For instance, this year, I'll have to open my spreadsheet of my bets. I opened up. I bet the over/under on the 15 teams that Zips had the most disagreement with Vegas on, the top 15 teams, and then I bet in Zips' direction with it. For instance, I took the over on Colorado, and so on and so forth. And I got 11 of those 15 correct, so I profited pretty well from that. But it's important to pick your spots. I look for value when I bet. A couple years ago, before his Cy Young, I actually bet 200 on Max Scherzer at 22 to 1 to win the Cy Young coming into the season, and that was when he was coming off just a 16-7, 3.74 season in Detroit. So I was very happy that one worked out, obviously, because that was like $4,200 after Vig. But no, I do like to pick my spots and bet. Perfectly legally, of course. Never a shady site. Of course.
But of course. So I don't remember what I was going to ask you, but I also wanted to ask you about something else.
You're gonna remember it as soon as we're done here.
It's okay. You know what? I'll message you and we'll just dial back in. No, I'm only kidding. But it's funny. I just started reading Moneyball again, and stuff is all coming back to me. What's your opinion of the original whole Moneyball concept? What do you think of that?
Well, I'm going to be biased about this because, as I joke, because I was one of the 90s sabermetricians that were in the community, Moneyball made us all respectable and employable for this kind of work to a greater extent. So it's always going to be hard to get a completely unbiased opinion of Moneyball. I think the only real problem with Moneyball is sometimes people draw too much into the things that were said. Like, it wasn't a book about on-base percentage being important. It was a book about a team with few resources, seeing what worked at the time. And I think sometimes people overreact and get the wrong idea about Moneyball. But I'm a fan of Moneyball. It did more to spread sabermetric thought and make people interested in that kind of thing than really anything before it. Even Bill James's work, I don't think had the impact on the general baseball community that Moneyball did.
Okay, but do you think, looking back at like the A's drafts where they were, it seems as though they've modified their outlook a little bit, like I always say, you want to use the stats, you want to go deep and, think outside the box, but you still got to use the eyeball test. But so
they can't steal on base percentage guys anymore, so they always have to reinvent themselves. And I would argue that they haven't really done a great job the last few years. Their drafts haven't been great. I think they've made some very questionable signings like Billy Butler. I don't know, because it's hard for someone to have the breakthrough forever. I mean, there's only so many innovations one guy has sometimes. I'm not always even sure that Billy Beane is still the right guy to be overseeing it, but that's another story.
So do you foresee yourself any new scouting breakthrough, any new innovation, any new approach? Or
I don't know. Sometimes you don't see it until it happens. There's always new ideas, but they always get progressively harder to find. It's not as easy as it. Do I have breakthrough? I don't know. I'm a good technician more than a revolutionary.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But maybe I do. I don't know. I've done some cool things, but I don't know if I have some huge revolutionary thing. I mean, every analyst likes that, but sometimes you stumble onto it. Like when Charlie Goodyear figured out the process of vulcanizing rubber completely by accident. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to find. I don't think that Mike Fast found some of that catcher framing data. I don't think he essentially knew what he was going to find. I don't think Voris McCracken, when he was doing his diff stuff, I don't think Voris, and actually I've talked to him, I know he didn't. I don't think he expected his findings to be that important. So maybe you never know. I think I'm a pretty good analyst. I probably have as good a shot as a lot of people, but I couldn't sit here and say I have a revolutionary idea. Because I think the people that think they have revolutionary ideas, those are kind of the snake oil salesmen.
Gotcha. So, Craig, you got anything else?
No, you're without a doubt you're our favorite guest, and I know I speak for Wayne thanking you for your time once again. I hope we can touch base, at the very least after the season.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely talk over the off season, discuss some trades, some signings.
Yes, for sure.
Because there better be trades and signings, because when there aren't, I have nothing to write about. And my editor gets mad if I don't have anything to write about.
I'm going to be very interested. Brian Cashman already had a press conference yesterday, and Yankee fans are clamoring for a pitcher, and Chris Sale is out there, and it's very interesting how he's shooting down the very idea already because he doesn't want to have.
The White Sox are asking for so much for Sale. I love Sale too. I think the White Sox don't really always have reality in.
Yeah. He gets me nervous though. Just his delivery and everything. He kind of freaks me out, but he is terrific.
Chris Sale always me because he's got like the body type of Gumby, and he's notorious for eating like just tons of cheeseburgers and cheesesteaks. He has like the team's cheesesteak record in Philadelphia. Over a weekend, he ate like 10 cheesesteaks over a 2-game set. I don't know how he does it. I'm jealous, but again, he's got the body type of Gumby, and he eats so much. I mean, you look at him and think he doesn't, but he doesn't exercise that much and he eats a ton, and it makes me so bitter about that because I have to eat well just to retain this body shape.
I feel you, believe me. You know, and it's funny. About 4 years ago, let's see, right before, after his first season as being a starting pitcher, I actually traded Chris Sale in my Diamond Mine League because I thought for sure he was going to break down. I thought he was. I mean, he had some injuries, but I thought he was going to just totally break down, and I traded him. And I believe it was Alex Avila, who this was after the year after he had his career year, so it was a down year. So Avila was just a throw-in. He was a body. I traded them for. I needed a first baseman and I needed a catcher, so I traded him for Adrian Gonzalez and Miguel Montero after Montero had his career year in Arizona. So, needless to say, Sale is still an ace. But what can I say?
Adrian Gonzalez, and it wasn't like he traded him for Pujols.
No, and I ended up trading. I ended up at some point trading Gonzalez, and it's funny. And then a couple of years later, I redrafted Montero just to be like a backup catcher, like a third catcher guy. I'm not going to use him unless one of my other two get injured. And I was able to use him as a throw-in to get Dellin Betances. So what can I say?
There's a guy in a Diamond. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, there's a guy in a Diamond Mine League who does this, and he says that Ryan Zimmerman's decline is my fault somehow. Because I forget who he traded Zimmerman for, but it was for someone who's a lot better than Zimmerman is now. And he's like, it's your. I don't know how it's his fault, but it's your fault somehow that Zimmerman can't hit anymore.
Well, it's always your fault. I mean, did this guy tell you this on Twitter?
Well, it was a joking thing. It wasn't like one of those.
I know. I'm just curious.
I get a kick out there.
I get a kick out of the way you get attacked on Twitter.
Yeah, it's fun though. I mean, I keep my email public just so I could get these great hate emails and stuff and share them with the world. I remember a guy before not Joey Hamilton, that's the pitcher. When Josh Hamilton went to the Angels, I only projected him to hit 260 after he hit 285. And he kept telling me, like, well, I'm going to remind you about how wrong you are every day of the season. So I actually tweeted him every day of the season, Josh Hamilton's batting average, because Hamilton ended up hitting 250. And he was telling me it would be 310 guaranteed. He actually eventually blocked me on Twitter.
Well, so Dan, we will be reaching out to you. I guess in about 6 weeks from now, when the season is all wrapped up.
Yeah.
Qualifying offers have been sent out, and all that good stuff, And when
I'm sure there's going to be if the pass is any indication, there's going to be a qualifying offer. That's such a terrible idea. I'm going to get so mad about it, and then it's totally going to work out for the team, and I'm going to be even madder about it. Like Ian Kennedy last year or Mike Kadire the year before.
Yeah, Kadire. That was the Mets.
I still can't believe it. That the Rockies gave him the qualifying offer, and the Mets took it. They gave up a first-round pick to sign for the privilege of signing Mike Kadire.
Well, and it's funny when they signed him. I was half right. Okay, when they signed Mike Kadire, I had told my friend, I don't know if you've ever come across him. He His name is Vinny Riccici. He goes by New York Vinny. He did like sports out in Seattle. He had a sports talk sports talk show on the Fan in Pittsburgh for about a couple of years ago. And we were, his brother lives close by me. We grew up in in Queens together, and so I was telling him Kadaya. He's a big Met fan. I told him Kadaya was a huge mistake. I said, all you got to do is you look at his home road splits, and he's going into Citi Field. I said it was, besides the qualifying, I said horrible idea, and his response was, no, I feel as though if you can hit it, if you're a good hitter, you'll hit anywhere. I'm like, no, he didn't hit good anywhere. Like, how can you say that? But my alternative to what the Mets were looking for, first baseman, outfielder, was Michael Morse. So Michael Morse didn't do any better. So
he could have cut the draft pick and the money.
Yes, they would have had the draft pick, but they wouldn't have gotten the money given back. So if they signed Morse 2 years, so Morse would have made him pay the money. So
Morse didn't. What was his contract? Now I'm looking it up. He didn't get paid that much.
He didn't. He didn't. I thought. You see, I tell you what. I looked at Morse. Morse was a guy that had success hitting in big parks, Seattle, San Francisco. So and the Mets needed a right-handed bat, and they weren't looking to spend a lot of money. He wasn't going to be an everyday player. I felt as though he would have been.
I completely forgot he got a 2-year contract. I did. I remembered him getting like a year. I didn't remember it was 2 years. My memory completely blanked on me. I was like, no one could have given him much, but no, they gave him 2.16.
So, so the Mets saved $6 million, but they lost a draft pick. So
I would take the draft pick. I'm sure the Will Funds for $6 million.
Yeah. Well, who knows? That's another show. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, we have to get that. We'll say that for next time. We could talk about the Mets and their ownership for like an hour, probably.
Oh, for sure. So anyway, Dan, listen, thank you very much, and enjoy the postseason.
Always fun, guys. I'll talk to you next time.
All right. Have a good night.
Here, Dan. Thank you.
So, Craig.
So what?
So, hey, listen. The next show we do will, the folks out here don't know this, but we've been taping the podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern Time because I am on I have a day job, and I am on a 12 noon to 8:30 p.m. shift, and Craig gets up very early, and I've been keeping him up for 3 months now. Actually, maybe almost 4 months, because it was supposed to end a month ago. But the good news is for Craig, the next time we take the show, it will be at a much more decent hour. And hopefully that'll give us a little more flexibility with guests, because I have had guests tell me like they can't do the 10 p.m. slot. So we will hope for the best. And so Craig, take us out.
Good show. One of the best. He's a great guest. He's terrific. I think we're off next week, but we'll be back. By the time we're back, we'll be in World Series mode or not? Let's see. In 2 weeks, no. I guess we'll be.
No. I think we'll be in
divisional.
We'll be in League Championship Series.
So until then, everyone enjoy your baseball. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you. We'll speak to you in 2 weeks. Take care.
Okay. Good night, everybody.